Hi friends, in this video we are going to discuss about the last part in SA-210, that is regarding audit of components, recurring audit and acceptance of change of engagement. Until now in SA-210 we have discussed about the objectives of this standard and what are the preconditions, auditor responsibility regarding these preconditions and management responsibility, limitation and scope of audit engagement, and next one letter of, that is principal matters which are included in the letter of engagement and additional matters. Right, now let us discuss about the first topic, that is audit of components. Here audit of components is nothing but audit of branches. Here is nothing but if the auditor of a parent entity, means main entity, is also the auditor of its subsidiary, means auditor is same for both as well as parent and as well as its subsidiary or branch or division. So in such situation, what are the factors which will influence the decision of the auditor, whether to send a separate engagement letter to the parent entity or whether to separate engagement letter to parent entity and as well as to its branch. So it depends upon the following conditions or situations. First one, who appoints the auditor, means who appoints the auditor, means whether it is appointed by the board of directors or TCW of management or shareholders or so who appoints the auditor. This situation will influence the decision of the auditor. Next one, whether a separate audit report is to be issued on the component. So this point also will influence on the auditor's decision. Next one, legal requirements. Suppose in legal, for example, in law, if they said as a subsidiary you need to issue a separate engagement letter, in such circumstances you need to issue a separate engagement letter to the such components. Next one, extent of work performed by the other auditors. Generally, as we said in the previous video, that in additional matters will include the work performed by the other auditors. So in such situations we need to issue a separate engagement letter to such components. Next, degree of ownership. So how much degree of ownership that is controlled by the parent entity will also influence the decision of the auditor. Next one, degree of independence. Degree of independence of the management of the component will also influence the decision of the auditor. Okay, about these are the points which will influence the decision of an auditor whether to issue a separate engagement letter or not. Okay, let us again we'll go into a quick revise of that. First one is who appoints the auditor. The second one, whether separate audit report is to be issued to the issued on the component, and third one, legal requirements, and fourth one, extent of work performed by the other auditors, fifth one, degree of ownership, and sixth one, degree of independence. This is regarding audit of components. Next one, that is recurring audit. Recurring audits is nothing but continuous audit. As an auditor, for every year before going to an audit you need to give a letter of engagement to the company or not. Generally depends upon the auditor's judgment whether you need to issue every year a letter of engagement or separate engagement letter. It depends upon the following conditions. Okay, generally it depends upon the auditor's point of view. These are the following situations where the auditor needs to issue a separate engagement letter. First one, any indication that the client misunderstood the objective and scope of audit. If there is a misunderstanding between client and auditor regarding the objective and scope of audit, in such situation you need to issue a separate engagement letter. Right, next one, any revised or special terms of engagement. Means if you are adding any additional terms and conditions when compared to the previous engagement letter, or you are adding any if you are doing any revise in in the terms of the engagement, in such cases also you need to issue a separate engagement letter. And next one, a recent change of senior management and board of directors or ownership. As we discussed before, letter of engagement is between the auditor and the client, means for clear and better understanding regarding its scope and objectives and responsibilities before going for an audit. In such situation, if there is any change in senior management, again we need to issue a new letter of engagement for acceptance. So in such circumstances also we need to issue a new engagement letter. Next one, a significant change in nature or size of the client's business. Here when there is a significant change in nature or size of the client's business, uh, audit plan automatically auditor plan will change, means auditor needs to do some extra procedure or something new. So in such circumstances also you need to issue a new audit engagement letter. Next one, as per legal requirement, if in as per law, if it is clearly mentioned that you need to issue a new engagement letter, in such circumstances also you need to issue a new engagement letter. Next one is change in applicable financial reporting. If there is any change in applicable financial reporting framework, in such circumstances also you need to issue a new engagement letter. And the last concept of today's topic, that is acceptance of change in engagement. Generally, if management is approaching the auditor for changing the terms of audit engagement, I mean generally auditor will issue letter of engagement to the client or management. So after issuing for confirmation, management wants some changes in these terms of the engagement issued by the auditor. Okay, in such means the management is asking the auditor to change these terms and conditions. Okay, in which auditor professional judgment provides, means when when management asks you to change these terms and conditions, as an auditor, will you simply change these terms when they ask? No, you won't change, right? You need some, when there is a reasonable justification to change the engagement, and if the auditor work performed complies with the SS applicable, then only you will change it. Unless you won't get reasonable justification to the engagement, you won't change these terms of engagement. Remember, okay, you need to get a reasonable justification to change. Unless otherwise you won't change these terms, and if you feel that this change in terms and conditions is reasonable and this change in terms is complies with standards, then you will change this. Otherwise you won't change the terms and conditions that was requested by the management. Okay, generally change in terms of engagement may result from three circumstances. First one, change in circumstances affecting the need for service. If that change in circumstances affecting the need for service, in such cases you will change it. Next one, misunderstanding as to the nature of audit or related service originally requested. If the terms which are mentioned in the engagement which are misunderstanding as to the nature of the audit or related service originally requested, in such circumstances you will change. Last one, restriction on the scope of engagement, whether imposed by management or caused by the circumstances. In this situation also you will change the terms in engagement. Okay, as suppose as a management request to change in terms of agreement, but as an auditor you won't find it reasonable justification. So in such cases you won't do it. In such circumstances management is forcing you to do the changes. So what are the options that are available to auditor? If management is forcing you to for change and not allowing to continue the audit without changing the terms, the auditor has two options. First one is whether to withdraw from the engagement or determine whether there is an obligation, either contractual or otherwise, to report these circumstances to other parties like TCWG or owners or regulators. Okay, as an auditor you have only two options, whether to withdraw from the engagement or to report these circumstances to the owners or TCWG or regulators. Okay, this is regarding acceptance of change in engagement. Until now we have covered all the concepts in SA-210, that is agreeing the terms of engagement. So if you have any doubts or queries regarding this, please mention in the comment box. Thank you.